Hello folks. Quick video before bed. It's now coming up to midnight now, so yeah. Well, yeah, I think I sort of said earlier that yeah, put it this way, was I hoping that was I hoping that God would speak to the pastor and help the pastor to realise that what God has been saying to me is of him, and it needs to be something which is spread, etc, etc, etc. Yeah, was I hoping that it would be a time soon, at least soon, that God will now say the opposite of what he said years ago when he said now is not your time, that God will now say it is your time. Yeah. And without much in the way of restriction, or not restriction, fight back. Yeah, of course. Yeah, was it a thing of saying, it'd be lovely if that can happen in a nice way, but yeah. I've said before that when we went from religious church to the next thing, then to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, of course there were people who strongly disagreed, vehemently disagreed, because they stayed in the previous. They didn't move. And so I've said that that's going to happen. So anything worth doing is going to, you're going to get you're fighting back on it to a certain degree, aren't you? You're always going to have that. Well, especially as I say, if you're saying to people that God is now saying that this is the thing, people can take offence to that for a number of reasons. Certainly if they've been looking at for revival and stuff like that, and then God speaks to someone else and gives that information to someone else, people can get very offended by that, and that's one way. The other way is, as I've said before, that people take that as you attacking them by saying that they're wrong and the way they're doing things is wrong. Well, I think the reality is, with regards to that point, is always a case of saying to people, well then look at the reality, look at the picture that is currently on view. We were talking recently, as I said, in the church about the mental health crisis within society and how low a lot of people are. Well, if you have a church that's even slightly functional, if you have a church that's 50% as it should be, you've got light being shone into the darkness, where at the moment there is virtually no light being shone into the darkness. So, do I need to tell people they're wrong, or does the evidence actually tell people that what they've been doing is wrong? With the problem, Well, as I said, this is why when I speak about the church and stuff like that, I can get quite enraged, because of the fact that people aren't looking at the evidence. They're not, and I've said before, time and time again, is that in the church they say, do not look at our fruit. You must not look at our fruit. Doing so is against God's will, even though actually doing so is in God's will, because Yeshua said, you know them by their fruit. But of course, those scriptures, they don't want those read, because they're way too challenging. We can't have any of that. I mean, the whole idea that people should have fruit, oh my God, you can't say that, not in church. So as soon as you start saying anything like that, you're gonna get, people won't like it. That's the reality. People will not like it. Well, certainly if you give a message talking about that the majority of Bible teaching is for babies. As soon as you say the majority of Bible teaching is for babies, oh my God, of course people won't like that. Of course people are not going to like that. And of course they're going to fight against that. That should be understood. And I don't blame people for that because I understand it. I certainly understand that they're going to do that. But does it make it untrue just because they don't like it? Well, it doesn't actually make it untrue at all. Well, that's what I'm saying. From the point of view of how I see things now, if what God has said is true, that you're supposed to use the word as a guidebook, as a guide to a relationship with Father, going through Yeshua to the Father, that once you mature, that when you first come into understanding of God, you come under the Word, but when you mature, you go through. Coming under the Word means you come under what? You come under Christ. You come under Christ, you come under all of his teaching. But once you come to maturity, you go through Christ to a relationship with Father. Again, that makes complete sense to me now. But if I'm saying that to people, I can understand completely how they're going to get offended by that. Because if their understanding is that I am of the world, of the Word, they understand that they are of the Word and they are in Christ. If you're saying that people who are in Christ are still babies because they're not come to maturity when they can go through Christ, as Christ himself said, you're supposed to go through. No one comes to the Father except through me, so you have to go through him. Well, that's what Christ himself said. Because I say, when he says no one comes to the Father except through me, he's saying you have to come to the Father, but you can only go to the Father through him. Well, generally speaking, the Word was given, and all in the word was given to educate those who have no understanding of God. To give them an understanding of God, to give them an understanding of who they are, to give them an understanding of Yeshua. I'm sort of breaking my rules here, aren't I? Yeah. I've said all this in video anyway, so I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything new that God is sharing. Okay. I'm only sharing what's old, what's already been given, so that's okay. But again, the problem is when that's said, and I have said that the majority of people in church are babies, but no, there's no blame on those people for where they are. The problem is that isn't enough, because if you say that the majority of people in church are babies, that they're not mature enough to come through Yeshua to a relationship with Father, people will take that personally. It's not meant personally in any way, shape or form. But it doesn't have to be meant personally for it to be taken personally. That's the thing. And yeah, as I say that's why it's a good thing that I'm not doing videos for the likes and for that, because what I'm saying is not going to go down well with an awful lot of people. Of course it isn't. Yeah, but again, that's the point, and that's why I did the video talking about, have I tried to impress people? Because I know, and I have known, ever since I've known this, that people won't like the message. Certainly until they're ready. They will not like the message. And yeah. I mean, it's just, as I say, thankfully, I've been on my own for most of my life, so it makes no difference to me at all. Not really. Did I come into this church thinking that I've now got a family? No. No. That wasn't the purpose. I didn't know if there was a purpose, to be completely honest. And so, I was just taking it one meeting at a time with regards to this church. There wasn't any plan from me in any way, shape or form. And there still isn't. I've no idea what's coming tomorrow. Don't know. No idea at all. It's coming up to bedtime now, so I will go to bed. But I have no idea whatsoever as to what's coming tomorrow. Where does God want me to go? Because 2 weeks ago on the Sunday, I was going to go to church and I didn't, because I was then told to take a day of rest, from anything spiritual. I spoke about that at the time on video. So what the plan is for tomorrow, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Well, because last night I did not sleep well at all. All that stuff from yesterday was very much on my mind last night, and so I didn't sleep well. I don't sleep well anyway, but that certainly didn't help. I'm looking forward to that time, certainly if I was correct that when you're of heaven you don't need to sleep, because that will be lovely, because sleep has never really been my friend. Although I do like resting. I like laying down in a comfortable bed and resting. Closing my eyes and just allowing myself to rest. That's nice. I like that. So I'll probably do that even when I don't need to sleep. But if that is within the realm of possibilities, that'd be a lovely thing to have when I do not need to sleep, because sleep has not been good for me for probably going to be about 15 years now. So well, even yesterday actually the pastor experienced me with that, because I was trying to say things and couldn't. I couldn't get the words. I could sort of see the words, but I could describe the word I'm trying to get to, but I couldn't quite get to it. And that's when my brain struggles to work because of tiredness. And as I've tried to explain to people, I'm tired all the time. Just like I talk about church is outrageous all the time, I'm tired all the time. I've been tired all the time for 15 years. During the day I get even more tired, and as I get even more tired, that's when I need to lay down, because my brain just stops functioning. And certainly with being able to communicate and stuff like that, yeah, that doesn't work. When I start getting a bit too tired, so yeah. But anyway, getting back to the point. Yeah. Yeah, I hope the journey would be a bit easier, but it is what it is. Well, I had the journey for 8 months, didn't I? I had that stand, and it's quite possible that that was meant as a way of preparing me for this. Well, for the journey of, you know, going from understanding to getting to the point where I can start to, you know, properly share that, where people are actually receiving it and being able to walk according to that. You know, that's going to be a journey, and quite a long one as well. So yeah. Of course, I was hopeful at some point that it could be through this church, but I don't think that would be the case now. I don't. Well, as I say, I don't know. I've got no idea what God's plans are. I felt up until yesterday that God had plans. Yeah, for me at this church, but yeah, I don't know right now what the situation is. So, yeah, we will see what happens. And yeah, as I say, yeah, in this video, yeah, I've shared what God has said, but I've not shared anything new. What I've shared is stuff that you can go back and listen to, you know, as I've said it so many times before. But it is true that when saying this sort of thing, that, yeah, naturally speaking, people, and in history it's been proven that people will take this badly. However much you want people to take this well, because it might be intended well. Yeah, people will take it badly. Well, certainly until it's, yeah. This isn't the same. Before I've talked about the fact that the first people to stand up and shine the light in the darkness, they will be attacked. I'm not talking about that because that's a different thing. But there are similarities. Yeah, once more and more people have this understanding and start sharing it, and it starts becoming more common knowledge within the church, people will accept it, and people won't be fighting against it so much. But this is very much early days from, yeah, that understanding. So it's like, okay, yeah. Well, it is a bit of a sod because, you know, I had all those years, you know, where things were difficult, and yeah, come to this point and things are going to continue to be difficult. So it's like, oh, for goodness sake, Father, really? You know, of course it is unrealistic to expect it to be easy, but, you know, come on. I mean, the difficulty is, I suppose, is like, for that stand, had I've got a wife at that point in time, I'd have had someone to share this journey with, which would have been quite helpful, but that wasn't to be. Although, yeah, as I said, I'm in love with Father. I have that relationship with him. He said he's going to be my dad, so that's cool. That's beautiful. Yeah, am I going to get a better relationship than that? Well, that really does depend, because, you know, as I said yesterday to Father, if what I'm being accused of with regards to being full of pride and all that sort of stuff, you know, and if, I should have not put that video on Sunday as I was told. Then basically the way I was told is that God has sort of said to them that I've been wrong, that the way I'm doing things is wrong. Well, so then of course I go to Father and say, excuse me, are we not supposed to be having a relationship? If you're going to be my dad, then why would it be, let's just say that right for a second, why would it be, if you say you're going to be my dad, if I'm supposed to believe that's true, you're going to be my dad, but you're not going to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. You're going to tell somebody else to tell the pastor, and then the pastor to tell me. If you can communicate with me that you're going to be my dad now, can't you communicate with me that what I'm doing is wrong? Can you not do that? That seems to me to be a fair question, doesn't it? Really? I'm not trying to accuse God of anything, but it's like, well, come on. The people that believe that I'm the one who's out of order, they believe that God is telling that. And if God is telling that, and for them to tell someone, for that person to then tell me, then, excuse me, that's not a relationship. It just isn't. So, yeah. That's a bit of a problem, really. I mean, certainly if God is doing that's quite a problem. Because, if Father is saying we're supposed to go through Yeshua to a relationship with him, but in a relationship with him we can't trust him because he won't tell us. He won't be actually in a relationship with us. He'll go and tell other people about us for that person to then tell us because he won't tell us that. That isn't good, is it? So, yeah. Well, as I say, that's why, last night was a difficult sleep. Because you've got all that going through your head. And, yeah. Well, there was a lot said. And because there was a lot said, then it needs to all be unpacked. And the problem is, quite often it gets unpacked when you lay down. And so, that certainly is the time that you really start speaking to God about that. So, So, we are just going to have to see what God has planned. Well, I heard something earlier which, if true, will be quite helpful. But again, if true, let's see what happens with regards to that. I should know fairly soon if that is true. So there you go. As I say, it's very interesting. But as I also said, was I hoping that things would go smoother? But that is not to be. So there you go. In the end, I suppose the only question is it worth it? Well, if that's the question that makes a difference, the answer is, of course it is. So, So there you go. You take care, God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Have a wonderful weekend, etc., etc. Have a good one. Bye-bye.